Good morning, Newport, and welcome to From the Desk of the Mayor. I am here today to bring you up to speed on some happenings from the last council meeting, and joining me today is my favorite city manager, Jonathan. Say hi to everybody.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here again with Mayor Sullivan addressing the city of Newport. So thank you for inviting me again.
Thank you. So what we've done is we had a council meeting, regular council meeting scheduled, and we had it last night. And it was a very busy council meeting, and we went through a series of appointments. Based on the charter, we are supposed to do annual appointments. And so we actually had over 30 appointments, and some there were elections, so of course you don't appoint when people are elected, but we did go through all of the categories, and it was wonderful to see citizens of Newport put in letters of interest. So we are getting response from the city. They want to be involved in our local government, and they want positions on boards and commissions, and that is absolutely wonderful. So I thought that we could start off and give you some updates on who's appointed and who's doing what right now, and what appointments we will be revisiting. But the first appointment, which was the one I was proud to present as number one, was the appointment of our new city manager. So welcome officially.
Thank you.
Officially.
Great to be here.
Yeah. So Jonathan, do you want to go and just give us a little update on some of the appointments, and then we can discuss them a little further?
Sure, absolutely. So really, this appointment list mostly came out of our charter for the city. So again, the city manager was number one, followed by our, the charter calls it Superintendent of Streets and Waterworks. Here in the city, we know that as our Department of Public Works Director. Through Chief of Police, the interim fire chief, some of these just kind of standard annual appointments. To me, I think some of these are kind of boilerplate, and we just need to do them per the charter. What really was fascinating to me was the letters of interest, as Mayor mentioned, that we were receiving for some of our open committee seats. So for our Recreation Committee, we had one new letter of interest. For the Planning Commission as well, a letter of interest. For our Development Review Board, we had 3 new members submit letters of interest. And this just goes to show that, in a time and in a world now where volunteerism, we hear this all the time across the country, is declining, we have people that are ready to step up and help offer whatever expertise they have in their background and provide specific insight into these committees that help us do our work. Because again, face it, we don't have enough staff, no municipality does, and we rely heavily on our volunteers to be able to accomplish the things that we need to do. So those are kind of just some high-level things. Kind of a funny piece, we haven't had a grand juror in, I think Jim said it, as long as he can remember. And we now have 3 grand jurors, Clark Curtis, Andrew Touchette, and Lori Grimm. So again, people from the audience, right, that heard about these openings and expressed their interest because they wanted to give back to their community, which is what I find so fascinating.
Yeah, it's exciting times. I see a whole change going on, and it's a good change. People are collaborating, they're coming out, they're feeling welcomed, participate in the council meetings. The council meetings open up the opportunity for the public comment, and as long as your public comment stays within the business of the council and it's respectful, we want to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely. And
everybody should be respectful. I mean, that's what we are. We're a human race of civilized men and women, right? So we want to keep that going. The other good thing that happened last night, as you know, President John Wilson retired, and we elected a new council president, and that is Council Member Chris Vachon. And along with being the president of the council, I explained last night that it's not just sitting in the seat at the council room, because if the mayor for any reason is incapacitated or becomes ill or cannot be there, the president steps into the stead of the mayor. And along with that, is a very important role. So there's an accountability, there's a fiduciary responsibility that the president of the council has to take if that person has to step into the role of the mayor. And that's outlined in the charter. And so the president and the mayor right now, we work so closely with the city manager, and we try to make sure that everything in the government is being put in place with good policies. And Jonathan is working so hard to make sure that everything we've discussed over the past couple of months is actually going forward, and he's taking action. I would like to say, Jonathan, maybe you could bring up, we had discussed going in and doing some random selection of how to test for where salaries should be allocated.
Yes.
So if you could just speak to that a little bit, let the people know that we are doing that. We had said we would start in March or April, and so if you could go ahead.
Of course.
It's all yours.
So, coming into this role, there was conversation about water and sewer rates, and, looking at 5-year averages on kind of that enterprise fund, because the water and sewer funds are separate from regular municipal operations, which we call the general fund. So we really wanted to see what percentage of staff salaries we could allocate specifically to that separate enterprise fund, so that we're not always, coding in accounting terms for the line items in our budget to, the city manager general fund salary. So we wanted to do a random sampling or an audit of time cards to kind of make sure that the percentages that are set across the board are averaged, and we have a good handle on what those percentages are. It was interesting, too, that during last night's meeting, when this conversation came up, that there was a gentleman in the public that this is what he had done for his line of work for 30-plus years that offers his expertise. I went home after last night's meeting and consulted with my stepdad, whose good friend is a retired water treatment operator for the town of Barton.
Wow.
And he said he would also be willing to, sit at the table with us and really have a good handle on, do we have leaks in the system? What should we be allocating to percentage-based from salaries and to offset some of those? So really bringing people that aren't necessarily staff and have a deep involvement in it, but kind of an outside lens in people that have been in this field to really look at what our next steps should be as a city. I mentioned last night that, having a good handle on our usage by way of having a water meter on every connection will give us a good understanding of how much water and how much water we're using and how much sewer we're processing on a daily basis, so that then we can bill appropriately and get that dollar amount where it needs to be.
Thank you. This is so important. It is so, it has been going on pretty much like rule of thumb is we'll just take this percentage and apply it across the board. And sometimes that just skews the actual accounting. And this to me is something, as an auditor, this to me is something that we need to focus on, and it's for the benefit of the residents. And I appreciate that you jumped right in there and took that as one of the top priorities. The other thing we discussed were some road agreements, because there are some privately owned roads that would like the city to take them over. And so we are looking at each situation individually, but we will be putting together road agreements going forward, and that will be an agenda item in the future. We spoke about Wildflower Way, and in their situation, they just need to get their road up to code. And once they do that, we can have a road agreement with them where the city can take it over after certain parameters are met. So we also invite you, please, to come to the council meetings. Email Jonathan and myself if you would like to do a presentation about your situation, so that the council members and the city manager can take that back, review it, look up the legalities, and give you a responsive answer and come up with solutions. And that's what our intent is. Our intent is to try to help. We want to see how we could do it, and how we could do it, what the legal parameters are, what the costs are to the city, and how we can assist. So the opportunity for you to speak at the council meetings is important. What you should understand as well is you won't be barraged with questions. You come in, you do your presentation, make it as thorough as you need. There are no questions during that presentation period. We will take that back, and then we will follow up with you. So you do not need to be afraid that people are going to attack you while you're doing your presentation. We want to hear from you. We really want to know what's going on out there. I also went out and did some legwork to look at some potholes to see where some speeding was going on. And I've discussed that with the city manager, and I think you're going to, could you talk to that a little bit about how you're going to follow up on that?
Sure. So we had a resident approach us the other day about, a transportation roadway issue. The mayor did meet with that resident on site, and we took photos and really documented what was going on. So the next step is to bring in our Department of Public Works Director, Tom, and kind of revisit that site and say, this is what was brought to us by the resident, and what are the best methods to kind of attack this problem, understanding that there are many issues across the city that need addressing, and so we need to prioritize. And depending on the outcome of that meeting, if it's a large expense, we may need to search for different grant funding opportunities to help offset some of that cost to the city. It may already be scheduled for replacement that maybe the resident isn't necessarily aware of, that's on a rotating schedule for paving or upkeep. So we just, this is how those issues get brought to our attention. We'll investigate, document, and then figure out which appropriate staff needs to be brought in, and then put a plan of action together to address that. Again, we don't drive on every road every day or walk every sidewalk or use every building. So these are how these certain issues come to our attention. So we do welcome, we would love to meet with you on site and really hear you out. And try to help solve some of these issues.
Right. And remember, I do have my mayor hours on Monday and Wednesday mornings from 9 to 11. And so many of you are coming and bringing these concerns or letting us know about situations, and that's how we are able to address them. And Jonathan is also available to join me at those meetings at all, so it's good you have both of us there, and that's what's important. We are available, and please, it's been wonderful. You have been coming out, the concerns or situations that we would never know. So I thank you for that. Please continue to come. It's Monday and Wednesday mornings from 9 to 11. The other situation that I did address last night was the leakage over at the Casella plant. I did speak to the director at the State of Wastewater Management, and he has us on the alerts going forward, and he is going to make arrangements for myself and the council member and city manager to actually go over and see what's going on. I did also read through the Canadian treaty so that we know about the water issues with the lake and who's responsible, and our Canadian neighbors are very much responsible along with us, and they are totally active in trying to make sure that we have clean water. So it's really good relationships, and those are the things that we are doing for you, and we want to keep you apprised. And we'd like you to come to the council meetings. I did notice that more and more people are coming to the council meetings, and this is fantastic. I mean, you're showing up, you're there, there's opportunity for public comment to sign up and speak as we go through the business, as long as you stay within the business, and you have to follow the rules, you have to be respectful. And as long as you sit within the confines of the questions so that the council can do their business, we want to hear what you have to say. You may not get answers on the spot. Usually the response is, thank you for your comment, but we do digest what you take, and we take it home, and then we review it, and we come back, and if action is necessary, we respond. Sometimes, there are people who may just want to keep doing the same statement over and over and over again, okay? And as you know, we're not going to break away from council business, to respond to that. However, it's important. What you have to say is important to us. The other thing that I want to go back to the appointments on, okay, Jonathan, you were appointed to the NVDA, right?
Yes.
Along with me. And so that's going to be a good appointment for you. Do you know anything about that? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So NVDA is basically our regional planning commission for this area, but they also serve as the Regional Economic Development Corporation in Lamoille County, where I was prior. They were two separate entities, and here they're just one organization. So this would be Newport City's 2 seats on the board of directors for that organization. They do have their own staff that is run by an executive director, but this is that governing body that every municipality has a seat at the table. So we stay comprised of all the information being passed down at a regional level, very involved with grants and brownfields and housing and all of the key issues here that are important to us in the city. That they bring a lot of great resources that they can offer. So it's a wonderful opportunity that that we get 2 seats at this table, and because they can offer a lot of great opportunities for the city.
Yes, and I'm very proud that you're going to be one of those seats with me. And so what we're trying to do for all is stay as involved with the state, stay as involved with the city as we can, and figure out how we can get the best resources for the city. Coming up, we have the Eclipse, right? April
Yes.
8th. That's exciting. We've been going to meetings, and Jonathan, you actually went to a formal meeting. Maybe you can bring the people up to speed on that.
Sure. So on Friday last week, there was a meeting held at the North Country Hospital for kind of regional eclipse planning. It was more specifically a tabletop exercise. So there was kind of 3 parts. We went through kind of pre-incident planning, and we went around the room and talked about what each agency that was represented, so North Country Hospital, NVDA, Vermont Emergency Management, City of Newport through the police department and city manager's office. There was Newport Ambulance, Glover Ambulance, Vermont State Police. So everyone was at that table, right? And we just kind of talked through what different events were going on. Some of the key ones that were brought up were Newport City and Gardner Park. Jay Peak is holding an event there, both at the Sky House and down at the base of the mountain. Westmore is holding quite a few events. Top of the World in Derby is holding an event as well. So just learning, what is happening that day. The key facts from the state were we're anticipating 200,000 people between Burlington, St. Albans, and Newport. And if anyone that's watching remembers the Fish concert in Coventry, they use that as an example in this tabletop exercise where that was roughly 80,000 people. So, we're talking something significant in that scale, not necessarily all in one area. It will be spread out throughout the Northeast Kingdom, but we are going to expect high volumes of traffic congestion, and then probably Monday when everyone leaves, seeing that traffic congestion as people leave the city. We encourage people that come to try out our downtown and our businesses, and really get involved with all of the activities that we have going on in the Northeast Kingdom. So it was great. We're all pre-planning. The city as well is holding our internal meetings on a bi-weekly basis to make sure that we're ready specifically to our events in the city, but also taking part in kind of this regional conversation of, staffing at the hospital and ambulances and emergency service and how all of that is going to play together as people come to tour our city in the area.
Yeah, thank you. Safety is the key. So we want you to have loads of fun. We want to see you there. I look forward to seeing you there. And we definitely want you to be safe, but we want you to enjoy the restaurants. We want you to enjoy the stores. We want you to enjoy the outdoors. So make sure you come and visit us here in Newport, okay, because we're ready for you. I do want to roll back to the council meeting yesterday. All of the council members have now signed off on their bonds, so they are all bonded. Our city manager is bonded. The other person who needs to become bonded is our superintendent of streets and waterworks. So once that happens, then that position will be firmed up, and everything should be fine and dandy with that one. We do have our interim fire chief, who has also been appointed the health officer. That was very important to make sure we had our health officer there. We have our police chief has taken on the emergency management director position for us as well. So thank you to Travis for doing that. I think we've also appointed our independent auditing firm, and we've appointed our city attorneys, and we've also discussed bringing on second attorneys, right, a second law firm, and I'm going to let you speak to that.
Sure. So when appointing our city council, so Stitchell, Page and Fletcher, that's a firm out of Burlington, Vermont, has been the firm for the city for quite some time, and the mayor and I were discussing, procurement of, when we do these appointments specifically for council and auditing, to make sure that we do go out to bid every few years to, number one, make sure we're staying competitive in the market for the rates that we're paying from these firms, but also to make sure that we're getting some diversity and there's not, the same staff doing the auditing, which can be a conflict of interest, or the same council that just becomes almost too familiar with the city, and we really sometimes need a fresh set of eyes to look at everything that we're doing. Not to mention there may be, employee law or real estate law, very specific things that the city may need to engage in, that having some sort of specialty counsel on those matters may be beneficial to the city. So having more than one firm that, in our back pocket that we can utilize is just best practice. So.
Exactly, and it's not an additional cost, so there's never going to be double dipping. Correct. It's only going to be a choice of who would be best to use on specific situations. And also, we're looking to see which firm may be able to give us a cost-effective paralegal, so that on certain administrative work that we ask of the law firms, that particular cost would be much lower. So you wouldn't be using the attorney's billing time, but you'd be using the paralegal's billing time, of course, with the oversight of the attorney. Right. But we're trying to be as cost effective as we can with getting you the best services. So I think that I'm asking again, come out and speak to us, and that's how we know how to help you. I think that so many things are going on. Policies have been put in place. We've passed policies. We're still working on policies. The next policy that we should see, hopefully, on the agenda for the next council meeting on April 1st is going to be about the taping and recording of staff members and how taping should or should not take place without consent. So we are going to have a nice policy on that. We have our attorneys working on a lot of issues that we've discussed prior, and we have been putting these policies in place. We worked on our residual management contract with Casella. That was passed yesterday. So that's when they come and pick up the sludge. We made sure that the city got pretty much what it wanted in the contract dealings, so that risk and responsibility passed over to the right party and that the city was protected. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work with Jonathan on all of these policies. We passed our personnel policy. And we have just so much more to do, Yeah. Where Jonathan and I are actually going to be working on a non-union grievance policy. That's very important. because the grievance practice is identified in the union contracts. But then we have a certain amount of people who are non-union employees. And so Jonathan and I are going to sit down and finalize a grievance policy for them. And we'll pass that through the council. So everybody's going to get fair treatment. I think that and we also have the Easter egg hunt, right?
Yes.
This weekend.
This
weekend. Right. So, and I think there's even for older children, I want to say 9 to 11, but don't quote me on the age. They have a glow in the dark at night or something.
Yeah, Mike was busy polishing the signs, getting them ready to put out.
Yeah, so go on to the rec site, the recreation department site, and look and make sure you go and do what you need to do to get out there to find those Easter eggs. I look forward to seeing you there too. I think it's really great. And anything else you'd like to add?
I guess I'll just echo, one more of our committees, which is the Northeast Kingdom Broadband.
Yes.
This has been really important work since really the pandemic. I know it had been started a long time before that, but this is our seat at the table for our communications union district, and it's called NEK Broadband. And this is where we're looking at making sure that we have great internet access to every connection, every home in the city, so that people can do what they need to do, right? Whether that's watch TV or entertainment, or if you have a home business where you're working from home. So making sure that, it's not the old dial-up internet that we had as kids, but it's that there's reliable connections. So we have, Woody Page, our representative, who is the primary, and then Chris Vachon, councilor president now, is the alternate. So we have great representation in that area as well, which is, again, another great work of our volunteer committees and commissions doing the fabulous work for our city.
Right. And then one more thing, and then we're going to say goodbye until next time. Jonathan, do you want to talk a little bit about the electronic kiosk?
Oh, yes. So last night, the Newport Downtown Development Organization came and gave a presentation on a new kiosk that's going to be installed early summer at the municipal building on Main Street in our parklet out front. This was a grant that was awarded to the Newport City Downtown Development, and it's going to be an interactive kiosk letting people know where all the happenings are, where the restaurants are. And what I found fascinating about this presentation last night is it's going to track the data for us. Right. So we'll see how many clicks on different restaurants and where people are most attracted to. And so, again, I think anything we can do to put these things into the public that allows, interaction amongst those members and then provides real-time feedback to us to constantly make improvements and work on things is fantastic. So I think this organization is key to the downtown in Newport, and they're really just getting started.
Correct.
We have a MOU with them that was signed at the end, I believe, end of February, early March. That's going to enable them through grant funding to really do some incredible work for us. And so again, this is just the start of that.
Right. So exciting times. Okay, Newport, have a phenomenal week. And we will see you again. Thank you, NEK-TV, for allowing us to be here on From the Desk of the Mayor. Bye.